The scent of cinnamon and nutmeg filled my kitchen as I pulled a sweet potato pie from the oven, humming one of Mahalia's old hymns. Just then, my phone buzzed. A voice message rolled in, and the sound of my son's voice filled the air like poison. I can't stand that tired old woman anymore. Soon, she'll be gone for good, and we'll be in Jamaica, spending her money. The dish nearly slipped from my hands. My chest clenched as I realized the message wasn't meant for me. It was meant for his wife, Renee. I pressed play again, unable to believe what I was hearing. His words weren't careless. They were deliberate. My only son, plotting my death as if it were an overdue bill. My name is Loretta Harris, 65 years old, and until 30 seconds ago, I believed Marcus loved me. I had spent the morning baking his favorite pie for his visit tomorrow, dusting my counter with flour like I'd done since he was a boy. Now I stood frozen, phone trembling in my grip. 3 years a widow had hardened me to loss, but betrayal from my own child? That was a new kind of grief. Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I stood at the window above my kitchen sink, watching the oak leaves shiver in a small wind. Calvin had planted that tree when Marcus was born. I pressed my palms to the cool counter and heard my late husband's voice the way it came to me in quiet rooms. Loretta, if it ever turns ugly, you protect yourself. We'd made a plan during the chemo days, when the nights were long and truth had no velvet. He'd insisted, and I'd promised. My hand felt steady as I dialed a number I'd memorized but never used. Avery Price, came the warm baritone. Old friend. Estate attorney. The only person who knew what Calvin and I tucked away between trust clauses and cool caution. Avery, it's time. A pause like a held breath. You're sure? I just heard my son wish me dead for a beach and a rum cocktail. I'll set it in motion now, he said. By morning, everything triggers. After I hung up, the house hummed with the oven's residual heat. The pie cooled like a small sun on the counter. I wiped my hands on a towel and slid my wedding band tight against my knuckle. My grief had taught me 2 things. Love makes a home, and betrayal teaches you where all the exits are. The signs had been there, petty and polite, dressed in concern. They arrived after Calvin's homegoing service, when the flowers still smelled of lilies and church fans. Marcus had pulled me aside by the potato salad. Ma, that house is too big for you. You should think about something easier. I'd called it sweet, thoughtful, a son caring for his mama. Then came the drop-ins that felt like appraisals. Renee ran her fingers along my mahogany buffet, whispering, vintage. Marcus took photos of the crown molding like it owed him money. The brochures followed. Magnolia Court, Harbor View Seniors, Lantern Oaks, Smiling Elders watercoloring under skylights. They've got live jazz on Thursdays, Renee cooed. No more shoveling snow, Marcus added. I noticed, he said, we more than you. My daughter, Simone, phoned with a voice dipped in honey. Ma, you know I love that you're independent, but don't you get lonely? I heard about Clearski Residences. They've got a therapy pool. I'll go with you to tour. Baby, I can swim in my own bathtub, I'd said, smiling into nothing. 6 months of subtle nudges. Questions about liquid assets. Gentle probes about end-of-life preferences. The kind of spadework people do when they're planting a money tree. And I watered it with silence. Until that message. The morning they came, the sky was washed clean, cool air, sun sharp as a blade. At 9 on the dot, my bell rang. Marcus stood on my porch in a navy peacoat he couldn't afford, Renee beside him with supermarket tulips I was allergic to. Their smiles had the shine of new pennies. Ma, he said, hugging me like he was scared to touch. You look good. Miss Loretta, Renee sang, pressing flowers into my hands. These reminded me of your garden. Come in, I said, and the house swallowed them. Pine floors sighing under our old history. I poured coffee. They let their eyes roam like birds hunting shiny things. Renee lingered at my grandmother's china. Marcus studied family photos as if weighing them. We've been thinking about your situation, he began with practiced gravity. My situation? I asked. Managing a big house alone is a lot, he said. We want you safe. Supported. Renee unfolded glossy pamphlets across my table like tarot cards. Look at Rivercrest. It's like a resort. They do cleaning, rides, chef-prepared meals. I lifted a brow. Monthly fees started at $6,500. Looks costly. That's the beauty, she said too quickly. You sell this house and the proceeds cover several years. No worries. And when those years end? I asked. Silence. The brochures shone like fish scales between us. I set my cup down. Let's not pretend, I said gently. You've both been circling me like news vans at a crash site. Marcus blinked. Ma, that's unfair. What's unfair is discussing my funeral like it's a calendar event. I stood and went to the desk where Calvin kept his stamps and secrets. The manila envelope slid free like a confession. Actually, I said, returning to the table, I updated my plans after your father passed. I tapped the envelope. More than once. Renee's smile cracked. Miss Loretta, you don't need to make any rash decisions. Rash. I echoed. Interesting word. My phone rang. On speaker, Avery's voice filled the kitchen, professional and precise. Ms. Harris, this is to confirm everything we discussed has been filed and is in effect as of this morning. Thank you, Avery, I said, watching their faces. I'm relieved your protection plan is activated. Protection plan? Marcus whispered. The kind that wraps itself around a widow when her loved ones forget how to love. I hit play on the message he had sent me by mistake. His voice paraded through my kitchen, ugly and casual. Can't stand that tired old woman, soon she'll be gone. Jamaica on her dime. Renee's hand flew to her mouth. The room shrank to the size of a breath. Explain it, I said softly. Explain asking God to hurry my expiration date. It came out wrong, Marcus stammered, color rising. I was venting. I'm worried about you living alone. Worried or impatient? I asked. Which one books a beachfront suite? Renee flinched. We haven't booked anything. I slid my phone across the table. A screen capture of her post from 3 days ago. Counting down to sand between our toes. Negril, we're finally coming. Our anniversary trip, she whispered. Next spring. In September? I smiled without warmth. You even tagged the hotel. Marcus sank into his chair, rubbing his jaw. Okay. We planned a trip.
We're drowning, Ma.
I'm working double shifts, commissions are trash, and my death funds a tan? My voice cut clean. Is that the arithmetic? Renee's eyes shone wet, but I'd learned not to trust water. Miss Loretta, we do love you. You love what you think I'm worth. I gathered the brochures, stacked them, slid them back. Since we're finally telling the truth, I'll tell mine. Your father and I anticipated this. We put teeth in the documents. If anyone tries to steer, scare, or scheme me into something for their benefit, the money goes where your hands can't reach. To who? Marcus asked, voice low. Church scholarships. Legal aid. A summer camp on the west side that needs new buses. I stood. Not you. They left in a whiplash of cologne and excuses. The house exhaled. I sank into Calvin's old chair, its leather warm from morning sun. The phone rang again. Simone. Hey, Ma. How you doing? Her voice carried that soft, expensive concern. Fine, baby. Your brother visited. A pause sharp as a pin. He didn't mention that. I imagine there's plenty he didn't mention. I let the silence tick. Simone, be honest. You and Marcus, have you two been discussing where you think I should live? We're worried, she said carefully. It's not safe for you to be alone. And, well, it's a lot for us to juggle if something happens. Us? I asked. Your schedules or my life? Both, she said, voice small. I closed my eyes. The will stands, Simone. The what? The changes your father insisted on. Triggered. Triggered, she breathed. Ma, what does that mean? It means my love is not a check. It means I heard your brother call me dead while planning a vacation. It means if either of you pressure me, question my mind, or push me toward a sale. Every dime leaps beyond your reach, and I let it. She started to cry then. I would never. You didn't have to say his words, baby. You just had to nod along to them. 2 dawns later, a knock, soft, embarrassed, carried through the house. Marcus stood on my porch with eyes like he hadn't slept. No, Renee. He held his hat in his hands like apology had weight. Can I come in? We sat at the table where I taught him fractions with cornbread. I poured him coffee out of muscle memory that annoyed me. I was ugly, he said, voice ragged. Not because you heard it, but because I said it. There's no excuse. Don't dress it up, I said. Call it what it is. Greed, he whispered.
Fear.
We're underwater. I kept thinking if we could just make it to your inheritance. He winced on the word. I hated myself while I said it, but I kept saying it. I studied him like you study a storm. When you were 12 and stole $20 for comic books, I made you return them. Then we talked about trust. He nodded. Easy to break. Hard to rebuild. You didn't just shake my faith in you, Marcus. You shook my faith in me. My ability to read my own children. What can I do? You can accept that the will won't change. That money is not coming to save you. You can call me because you love me, not because your mortgage needs a prayer. He swallowed. I can do that. I will. 2 weeks later, Simone arrived with a foil-covered casserole and the smile of someone who'd practiced in the car. Hi, Mama, she chimed. I brought your favorite, chicken tetrazzini. My favorite was gumbo, I said, letting her in. She bustled, claiming counters like deeds. Can a daughter just want time with her mother? She asked, setting my dishes on my table like props. She can, I said, though daughters rarely arrive with noodles unless they've got an agenda. Her smile faltered. We ate. The casserole tasted like obligation and cream of mushroom. I've been thinking, she said during store-bought pie. We keep talking about care. Maybe we should talk about joy. What would make you happy right now? I sip my coffee. What do you think would make me happy, Simone? Travel. Classes. Experiences. She leaned forward, eyes bright. You shouldn't hoard for later. Spend it.
Live.
We'll figure the rest out. I tilted my head. Interesting shift, considering last month you wanted me conservative with liquidity. She flushed. I was afraid. I didn't want you to run out of money and need us. And now you'd prefer I run out entirely, so there's nothing left for charity. I said it gently and watched it land. Your father said you were the most dangerous kind of smart, Mama. The kind that speaks in truths shaped like gifts. I set my fork down.
No, baby.
We're done speaking in shapes. Avery's office sat on the second floor of a candy-colored Victorian with creaky steps that remembered everybody. He hugged me like a nephew. We closed the door on the city, and on his desk lay a thick file stamped confidential. Before we start, he said, you need to know. Calvin asked me to hold certain provisions back unless specific triggers were met. What kind of triggers? Evidence of coercion.
Fraud.
Threats. His eyes were kind and unflinching. We've hit them all. My mouth went dry. Fraud. He opened the file. Calvin hired a private investigator 6 months before he passed. Wanted a clear picture. No shadows. Your children are in deep. He slid papers toward me. Statements, balances, red numbers like open mouths. Marcus and Renee are drowning. 2 refinances, 5 maxed cards, a personal loan against his retirement. They owe over $180,000. Simone and her husband, Trey, aren't far behind. Private school, a lease on a car they can't afford, a kitchen they put on plastic, about $140,000 in debt. The room hummed. They hid this. They curated it, he said. And that's not the worst. He produced a set of forms. 3 months ago, Marcus took out a life insurance policy on you. $1.5 million. He declared an insurable interest as your caregiver. Double payout for accident. The air thinned. I gripped the chair arms until it creaked. So they prayed for accidents to hurry along? Avery's voice softened. Calvin anticipated even this. He handed me an envelope with my name in my husband's blocky handwriting. For Loretta, if the worst shows its face. My hands trembled opening it. Calvin's words rose steady as a hymn. Maggie, if you're reading this, I was right about the storm and wrong to hope we'd be spared. I left you a door no one knows about. Account details below. If anybody circles you like vultures, you step through. I hired someone to watch on your behalf, Darius Cole. If harm comes near your shadow, the evidence is already in motion. You are not alone. Plant your feet. Love, Calvin. P.S. Lakeshore Federal. Account 8874. Password. Blue Carnation number 22. I looked up with tears I refused to blink away. He wrote me a door. I whispered. Avery turned his monitor toward me. Typed, clicked. Numbers populated the screen like a chorus. I covered my mouth. 2.9, he said quietly. In addition to your known assets. Calvin hit a whole river, I said, laughing once, low and disbelieving. He built you a raft, Avery corrected. Now tell me what you want to do. I sat straighter. I want a meeting. All of us. Here. Tomorrow. He frowned. That's risky. Good, I said. Let them meet the version of me that doesn't flinch. I made calls that morning like stitches closing a wound. Miss Bernice across the street agreed to watch my house. I transferred a slice from the hidden river to my checking account, just enough to move fast if needed. Then I dialed the number at the bottom of Calvin's letter. Cole Investigations. Mr. Cole, this is Loretta Harris. My husband said you were watching. A voice like gravel warmed by sun. Mrs. Harris. Yes, ma'am. Your husband was thorough. I've kept eyes on your children's finances movements. You tell me where to send it. Tell me, I said and braced. For an hour he did. The call Marcus made to my doctor pretending to be concerned about my memory. The quiet lunches where Simone floated phrases like confused and overwhelmed to my friends. The meeting they'd had with a lawyer about declaring me incompetent. I listened until rage smoothed into something cold. Mrs. Harris, Darius said carefully, are you planning to confront them? Yes. I advise against it. They're desperate. Desperate folks light matches. I'm not hiding in my own house. Then let me stand behind you, he said. I'll bring backup. Bring the whole drumline, I answered. When I hung up, the oak outside my window shivered again. I wasn't scared. I was sharpened. They arrived at Avery's conference room early, Marcus with jaw tight, Renee overpainted, Simone controlled, Trey curious in a cheap suit. Avery's assistant brought water none of them touched. I took my seat at the head like my mother taught me, back straight, chin soft. Thank you for coming, I said. This is a conversation we should have had when your father was alive. We'll have it right today. Ma, if this is about the will, Marcus began. It's about more than paper. I nodded to Avery. He opened a folder and slid a document toward my son. Explain this, I said, voice level. Marcus scanned, color seeping out of him. Renee leaned in. Simone went still. Trey's eyes flickered. A life insurance policy on your mother, Avery said, dry as a judge. Beneficiary you. Double for accident. It's not what you think, Marcus croaked. It was funeral costs. Estate taxes. On what estate? I asked. Just last week you said I should sell the house for security. Simone whispered. Marcus, you didn't. You knew, I said without looking at her. Darius's photos of you at the agency. The ink on the policy is barely dry. Renee began to cry. We would never hurt you. Maybe not with your hands, I said. But words can push. Lies can tilt. Papers can pave a road to a cliff. I let the quiet stretch thin and dangerous. Since truth is finally invited, I said, here's some more. Avery opened another folder. Numbers glowed on printed pages like exit signs. Mr. Harris made additional provisions your mother chose not to broadcast. Simone's head snapped toward me. What provisions? The kind that mean I'll never be your bill, I said. Your father was a quiet man with loud foresight. Are you saying Trey started I'm saying what you think you covet is a rounding error, I said. I'm saying your father loved me enough to build a world you cannot gut. I stood, palms on the table. And I'm saying this. All contact about money ends today. If you call me to discuss assets, if you send a brochure, if you ask a helpful question about my mind, the remaining charity clauses activate and not a penny goes where your hands can find it. For how long? Simone asked, voice small. 5 years, I said. Prove you know how to love me without counting. Marcus swallowed. And if we can't, then you'll have answered the only question that matters. Avery cleared his throat. We'll also be canceling the insurable interest claim, he added. You cannot insure people you're not responsible for. I gathered my purse. Our business is concluded. I chose peace at first. No charges, no headlines. I wanted silence back in my walls and my name back in my own mouth. For a while, I got both. I booked a ticket to Accra because something in my bones wanted to stand on a shore that could remember me. I signed up for a cooking class taught by a woman from New Orleans who spanked dough like a cousin. I slept. 3 months later, Darius called. I need to see you, he said. Today. He brought a laptop and eyes that didn't waste words. Screens lit my living room. Text threads, timestamps, plans. Renee to Marcus. It's been months. She's not budging. Marcus. We need another angle. Simone to Trey. If we show up to rescue her, the class, maybe we can rebuild trust. Trey, Tom. He meant himself. The man had a habit of writing his own name. Says fear works faster than guilt. We could stage something. People who travel alone, accidents happen. My hands went cold. Are they going to hurt me? I think it's time for police, Darius said. Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. The glass showed Simone and Trey on my porch, their smiles like knives. They're here, I whispered. Darius was already moving, phone to his ear.
Back up, he said. Now.
Hi, Mama. Simone trilled when I opened the door. Her eyes flicked past me, clocking Darius, the laptop, the open vein of evidence. Who's this? A friend, I said. Trey's voice was smooth as oiled rope. We were in the neighborhood. You live 40 minutes away, I replied. Simone drifted to my mantel and pretended to admire photos of me kneading dough, laughing with classmates. Italy suits you, she murmured. I haven't been yet, I said. Oh, the classes then. I heard you're planning something big. Flights, hotels. The words landed like threats wearing perfume. Darius stood. Mrs. Harris, we should step outside. Go where? Simone asked. All sugar gone. We're having a family talk. Actually, Darius said, you're leaving. Sirens threaded the air, distant then near. Trey's smile curdled. You called the police? I called them months ago, I said. Today is just delivery. Simone grabbed my wrist, and I felt how tight desperation holds. Mama, don't do this. We're family. Family doesn't chart accidents, I said. Uniforms filled my doorway, blue, calm, efficient. Darius handed over a folder thick enough to change futures. The detective's eyes moved fast, then slower. Ms. Harris, we'll take it from here, she said gently. They read my children their rights in my living room, under the oak's shadow. Something unclenched in my chest I hadn't known was a fist. 6 months later, I sat in a cafe in Jamestown, the Ghanaian sun pressing warmth into my shoulders. The ocean stretched wide and certain, whispering with every wave that survival was more than endurance, it was choice. I wrote postcards to Miss Bernice and the choir ladies, telling them about plantains caramelized in palm oil, a girl dancing in red dust, the castles that sang of sorrow and strength all at once. My phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number, though I knew the cadence of it before opening. Ma, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I hope someday. The words trailed into silence. I stared at the screen a moment, then deleted it. Not in anger, but in release. Some bridges can't be rebuilt, and some aren't meant to be. I walked down to the water, where foam lapped at my ankles. Calvin had been right all along. People change around money, but he'd also been right about me. I was stronger than I'd ever believed. Freedom didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like breath, like truth. When the gate agent later called for boarding, I stood, suitcase in hand, ready for the next country, the next chapter. My life finally mine, and no one else's.